All right, Alex, let's go to the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline. Let's bring in a Patriots insider from ESPN. It's Mike Reiss joining us on the NFL Draft Show. It's Joe, Murray, Alex Barth. Mike, how are you tonight?
Joe, Alex, I'm doing well. How are you? I've been down at the stadium, I want to say since like 1 o'clock. Long day and the build-up leading up to the draft. Always exciting to sort of get to this point.
So how do you feel about the pick, and what was the reaction when Will Campbell's name got announced?
So I was here at the draft party and had the camera rolling, Joe, and the crowd, I cheered it. So I was actually curious to see what the reaction would be, just because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I mean, the media discussion about Will Campbell has maybe trended a little negative in New England leading up to the draft. I don't know if that's an accurate representation that I'm saying right there, but the crowd welcomed the pick. I will say when the Giants picked Carter, Abdul Carter, I did hear a groan, a collective groan from the crowd, because I think the crowd really would have erupted if Carter was there at 4.
Yeah, and I think both can be true. I was wondering if he was going to get, Mike, if you remember, Jaylen Brown, when he got drafted, the reaction at TD Garden that night, and that one obviously worked out after he got booed. But Mike Vrabel talked about they went down last week, they worked him out. That's kind of when they knew he was the guy. Is that the sense you got, that this has kind of been the way they viewed it for about a week now?
So I think, Alex, the biggest thing that my understanding is that, remember last year when they picked Drake May and Elliott Wolf said afterwards, we had a pretty good feeling, that 1 was going to be Caleb Williams, 2 was going to be Jaden Daniels, and we were locked into Drake May. I remember he said that last year. This year, I'm told, was a little bit different. They knew Cam Ward was 1 to Tennessee, and they felt like 2 was going to be Travis Hunter, ended up being the Jaguars instead of the Browns. I think at 3, there was a little bit of unknown where the Giants were going, maybe over the last couple days, and if they didn't go Carter, then you would have had the conversation, do you go Carter over Will Campbell? And now they ultimately didn't need to have that conversation, but I think that would be the one thing on that topic, Alex, where if Carter was there, I can't tell you decisively that they would have definitely picked Will Campbell. Maybe they would have, but I think it would have at least forced them to have a conversation on what to do with the pick. How's that?
Yeah, Mike, I was going to mention, just we've seen some other rookies get drafted here, and well, one will say they make people out of wheelchair stand up. People in wheelchair stand up. We've heard best hands in the league. Well, from Will Campbell, it was nasty, right? And he's been waiting for this his whole life, and he's gonna do whatever he can for Drake May or die. These. I mean, this was some really positive, want to run through a wall type stuff. Did you sense that type of confidence in Will Campbell hearing from him?
Well, I sensed it, Joe, but I want to take your point in a little bit of a different direction, and because I think it's a really good one just from being around the team. They want to bring in this type of player and this type of person, and maybe they got away from that a little bit last year at times. And so I think, to your bigger point, Will Campbell, he plays the position that they needed the most, they hope, and even if he slides into guard, maybe not what you want at number 4, but guard's pretty important too. If we watch the Patriots offensive line the last 2 years, I would say that. But I think the point that you're making is, what type of people are they trying to bring into this program? And Will Campbell represents that. And in that sense, Joe, it reminds me of Devin McCourty in 2010 when he was drafted. You're not going to have to worry about a guy like that.
So if you don't mind, Joe, if we look ahead, and Mike, what we were just talking about is, Mike Vrabel sort of teased there. They might not be done tonight. Did say they're not going to just trade up, that the player has to have a certain grade. They might be looking at certain guys. If they do move up, and obviously it takes 2 to tango there, but if they do move up, what kind of player do you think they're targeting if they pick again tonight, Mike? Or just at 38, what do you think is next on their list?
Oh, man, Alex, so I wish I would just be guessing now, but
Sure.
I think when we look at their needs, wide receivers, probably the first one that comes to my mind. Is there a receiver that they have a first-round grade on that slides within striking distance? Defensive tackle, would be another one. I'd be a little surprised maybe if they moved into the first round for that. But that's another one that comes to mind just when I think about it. I do think not in the first round, Alex, but pass-catching running back I have on my list. Tight end, I think it drops off after maybe the first handful of guys. So maybe you can wait there at 38 if 4 haven't gone at that point, and maybe get the 4th guy if you see value there. But those are a couple that come to mind. And honestly, Alex, it wouldn't shock me if it's another offensive lineman, a double dip, because I feel like that area is, I would argue, is not even fully addressed yet. They need more help.
Mike, just getting back to the type of player that they're looking for, is there a chance that they might identify guys that are like that over maybe talent or where they might land on their draft projection and go after guys with toughness? I mean, we saw it this offseason, right? Mike Vrabel moved on from a lot of captains from a year ago and players from a year ago. With their next few picks, are they still looking at that identity, or are they looking at actual talent looking forward here?
Oh, man, Joe, I think it's hard to do it without the talent. That's sort of the balance, right? And I was actually talking with some fans that were waiting to get into the draft party here. They had like 2,000 fans up in the club here, a good atmosphere, good energy. We were talking about Corey Dillon in 2004 and Randy Moss in 2007. Sometimes you got to take on some guys with a little bit of an edge or who maybe have a reputation that isn't, call it, the cleanest. Those two guys, maybe that was unfair at times. There were some different circumstances as to their situations. But so I think it's a balance, Joe, because I think if you try to get 53 Boy Scouts, you're probably going to be 0-17, right? Like, you got to be able to play the game.
Mike, just looking at it, the way the rest of this first round has gone, and maybe, looks like some wide receivers are falling. Tyler Warren goes late compared to what was expected. Do you think that, and Vrabel had said they would have taken the call if it was there, how much interest do you think there was in that 4th pick for the Patriots, or once Carter and Hunter had gone, again, with not much movement happening around the league, do you think that there was not much there to materialize?
So Alex, I think my understanding is that as of yesterday, they received modest interest. Teams call, and the way it works is, hey, if the guy we covet is there,
right,
you can expect to hear from us when you're on the clock. So I think what Vrabel said is probably the truth. Travis Hunter goes at 2. Abdul Carter goes at 3. Those were the 2 guys that people would have been interested in trading up for, right? And once they were gone, I think the teams that had called the Patriots with this, what I was told, a modest level of interest, they had no reason to call at that point because they were coming up for one of those 2 guys. So there was, and Vrabel said point blank, there was really no interest once the Patriots were on the clock. And I do believe what he said, that the Patriots at that point were decisive in where they were going, and it was going to be Will Campbell.
All right, Michael, stand by the phone. Who knows what else we got brewing here. One more for you.
Yeah, let's go.
Do you think that the Patriots are now focusing on becoming attractive? Meaning, not free agents necessarily didn't sign this offseason. They did go after guys that their coaching staff knew this offseason, right? Mostly on the defensive side of the ball, some on the offense as well. But is this pick now and whatever else they do for the rest of this draft in this season, are they trying to become more desirable so when they start to get into those prime years for Drake May and now Will Campbell, are these the first steps to become a desirable franchise where free agents want to sign here?
So, Joe, I have a couple thoughts on that. I mean, I think that where players want to sign generally is where the most money is. So I truly believe that. I think Milton Williams is a good example of that. You keep putting your chips in the middle of the table and keep upping the offer. $20 million, $22 million, $23 million. We're going up to $26 million. I'll go to New England. And I think now once you get the player here, it's what culture you create. And I do think there is something to what you said, is if players feel good about what they're doing here and they talk to other players, and, what's it like playing in New England? Oh, Vrabel, he can be tough, but he he cares about us, or they take care of us. They look out for our families. When they signed us, they brought my mother and my father with me, or my siblings with me. They're trying to do things in a way. Like, I think that's secondary to the money, Joe. But I think that stuff can make a difference in a reputational standpoint when players talk around the league.
So how much does it help then, looking ahead, that they have, might be the two most expensive positions in football, right? Quarterback and left tackle on rookie deals. That should help them, maybe not for the rest of this offseason, but going ahead in free agency, position themselves, right?
Well, I think so, Alex, but for me, and this is maybe just my opinion, and certainly I don't have all the answers, I believe the best thing for them, they got 9 picks in this draft. They got to just get back to hitting some of these picks and drafting and developing and really the homegrown players. Like, so let's say next year at this time, Christian Gonzalez, lock up that player to an extension. 2 years from now at this time, we're going to say the same thing about Drake, I believe, right? Because he would be eligible at that time. So I think, to me, Alex, it's less about the mindset of going out, paying big money, and signing players from other teams, and drafting, developing players, and then re-signing them that you groomed here. And I think the Patriots have got away from that a little bit, as we've seen sort of a little bit of an erosion from their championship pedigree, back in the 2000s and 2010s.
One more for me, Mike, just to follow up on that. You mentioned them needing to hit on some picks as they go. They're scheduled to make 9 picks, now 8 with Campbell. They came into tonight with 21 open spots on the 90-man roster by my count. Do you think that there might be a push to get some more picks where they have the flexibility to get a few more kicks at the can at it? Or do you think we should anticipate maybe a larger UDFA class?
I would think more the latter, Alex.
Okay.
Getting the right guys, like to Joe's point before, the right player, the right guy. Like, if you get the right combination, maybe you might end up coming out of here with less than 9 picks made because you're coming back into the first round, or you're moving up in the second or up in the third, or So I think volume-wise, I'm probably less inclined to say they got to come out with X amount of number, and more like 3 starters minimum, then some depth and some role players, and start to get this program up and rolling. And I don't know how you guys feel if you've done this, but if you look at their opponents this year, maybe I'm crazy to say this, but to me, 7 to 9 wins is not unrealistic.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, Joe. Maybe you think I'm crazy, but I mean, what do you think on that number?
Well,
I mean,
the number's 8.5 right now.
I was going to say, isn't the total 8? So
yeah.
I lean under just for the simple fact of, there might be some hiccups, but the way that they've covered defensively, and the fact that they have a great coach. Let's call it what it is. They have former head coaches in here and guys who've been there before. There should be high expectations for the Patriots this year.
I mean, there's health, but assuming that, I don't think that's an unrealistic number at all.
And Alex, I'm glad you mentioned it, because the one piece that would make me a little nervous for them right now is the health at quarterback. I actually think they're thinner than they would have, without trading Joe Milton, which obviously there were factors there. But with Drake's and some of the visits to the concussion tent that he had, that's something I would say would, like to see what they do in a third layer on the depth chart there.
All right, it's Mike Reiss. Mike, appreciate your coverage. Appreciate you joining us here. And who knows, maybe something else happens tonight.